Welcome, Season 3, Episode 1 of the Modern Woman's Menopause Show. I am Coach Carolyn. I'm very excited to be here. We've got an amazing episode tonight, and we have an amazing lineup of guests for this season, which are going to be very, very helpful, informative, and I really hope that you are able to watch this entire season. Today, we're celebrating. All right, so we're going to be talking about this journey that so often people can see as a negative, and they can think that everything is ending and that their body is falling to pieces. And I want to help you change how you look at that. And this guest is going to help with that as well. Paula Skalnek is a wonderful guest. She's a celebrant. She has a rich background that spans across many disciplines, including cosmetology, education, metaphysics, aromatherapy, and clinical herbal medicine as well. Her success is due in part to her keen listening skills that she's developed over the years, which enable her to hear both what is being spoken and what is being unspoken, what's being left unsaid, which I think is important. Her celebrant practice evolved organically, inspired by her desire to be in service to other people, fostered by her creative spirit. She began crafting non-traditional ceremonies that incorporate elements from her multi-passionate path of life. I love that, multi-passionate path of life. Her gifts include her talent for reimagining how nature and handmade objects and everyday articles can be utilized into rituals and ceremonies that acknowledge transitions in life as well as those that honor life's milestones. Her presentation, Ceremonies for the Autumn and Winter of Our Lives, is designed to encourage your creative spirit and inspire your inner celebrant. So with that being said, I cannot wait for you to hear this interview, to get some ideas, to get those juices flowing on how you can celebrate yourself, how you can celebrate others around you, and how we can all come together and celebrate this journey called menopause. All right, so here we are, Paula. I'm just so grateful that you're here. And I thought that this would be a really pertinent episode to do for the first one for season 3 because of what we're discussing today, how you're going to be helping everybody really look at menopause from a completely different light and a positive light at that. So I really am grateful to you for being here today. Let's start with ceremony. I'd like to talk about, well, actually, first of all, what I'd love you to do, could you go through or tell me a little bit more, tell the audience a bit more about what it is you do?
Okay. Yeah. So I work with people, whether that's couples to do weddings or people to do ceremonies, and we co-create ceremonies together. So whatever it is in their life, whatever milestone, whatever transition they're going through, then I work with them to co-create a ceremony. So that ceremony could be very
Lovely.
intimate, one person, two people, to
Okay.
a small group, and then bigger. Yeah.
Lovely. Why do you think it's important to have ceremonies?
Um, I I think that we are hardwired as humans to be wanting ceremony and to honor those milestones that happen naturally or not so naturally for us. And we got away from it. Our cultures really, really got away from ceremony. And when people came to our countries, whatever, I'm using Canada as an example. We became sort of this melting pot for immigration, and it was like,
Yeah.
be like us. Let's forget our ceremonies. Don't be like you left at home. Like leave behind those ceremonies that were true to your culture or whatever. So people are awakening to that. They're awakening to want to return to, more of what their ancestors did, more of, whether that's natural medicine or ceremony.
Yeah.
And because we're hardwired, it's the time, right? I just see that now is the time to do more and more ceremony.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. And I think personally, my thought is in today's day and age as well, where it seems people are a little stressed. It's a bit divisive in, places. I think coming back to the soul and coming back to things like this and grounding ourselves, I think is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is
I was going to say, I think COVID taught us that, being in isolation taught us how much we want to be with others, right? And I think that's why I'm seeing such a surge, right, of people saying, "How can I do this? What can I do? Is there a ceremony?" And I say, "Well, let's just make it." But I think that people
interesting.
really learned a lot about what was missing and what they
Mm.
really need in their hearts. So yeah.
Lovely.
Uh,
Okay. So
mhm.
is there a way of doing a ceremony that's
Yeah,
not really appropriating rituals or wording from the indigenous culture or other cultures as well?
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's part of where I shine, is that I'm the, I like to recreate and say, well, what do you like? And when people see it, on social media or something like that, sometimes they say, oh, I really want to do that. Smudging, I'll use that as an example.
Okay.
And I say, well, what's your medicine? What's your bundle? You don't have to use that. And on the other side of that, appropriating using scent or incense or whatever is okay. It's not, we're not appropriating. We're using
That's
something
right.
that maybe comes from their ancestry, or they created themselves. So I think
Okay.
it's really possible. The language that we use is important.
Yes.
And that's where, I mean, I really love doing that. I love finding what is that person's style, what's the language that they like to use, and then work that in without, appropriating, stealing, whatever we want to call that, from other cultures.
I think,
Yeah.
so listening to that, so it tells me that you could obviously each ceremony must be very different. And yes, this applies to, we're going to talk about menopause in a minute because I know what, it's that's what this episode is about. But it must be very interesting because therefore every ceremony is going to be different and you're going to see the different what interests people, what connects with people, resonates with people. Everybody's going to have something different. That must be very interesting to be part of, very personal too.
Yes. Yeah. I
Lovely.
I find it fascinating because some people will say, can we just use, a collage of words? And then other people would want something a lot more formal, or words written by somebody else, like
Okay.
poetry or whatever. So even in the script, it's completely different every time.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, is there, I don't know if there is a difference, but it, I tend to think there is, what the difference between ceremony and ritual?
Yeah. Um, if you were to Google both of them, you're going to get different explanations of both. Um, Ceremony is the enactment, to me, of a rite of passage, a transition, or the enacting of whatever you're there to honor and celebrate, acknowledge. A ritual is a part of that. So some of the definitions will say, well,
Mm.
ritual is something that is repeated. Meaning that could be your brushing your teeth as a ritual, or it could be, a daily event or something. And I don't always see it like that. Ritual is a small part that uses language, but uses symbols and all our senses to take a snapshot or give a snapshot of where it's at right now. So I see ceremony and ritual a little bit differently than some people, meaning
Okay.
that ritual, you don't have to do it every single day. And on the other hand, there are times when I recreate with people a ceremony that, or a ritual that they would do every single day that they may not be able to do anymore. And how can we change that for them that is working? I'll use someone that's just come out of surgery. They can't use their arms because they've had, lymph nodes removed. Well, let's
Mhm.
figure out how else we can do that. So yeah, so I think that there's things that we can do that are rituals that we don't have to repeat
Okay.
every single day or every single hour or whatever people,
Yeah.
use that as their marker. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if this question is if you might have answered it already, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
When would you suggest a ritual or a ceremony actually takes place? Are there rules to this, or what
Yeah.
in your
Uh,
estimation?
I think anytime someone needs more support,
Mm.
use a ritual. So if it is something that they need to do every single day, you walk through the door frame and you say, I'm powerful today, or whatever that, thing is for you. Um, they may need that every single day.
Yeah.
They may need it in some cases every single hour. Ceremony is more structured.
Okay.
Usually, there's two different kinds. Well, there's a couple of different kinds of ceremonies, which I'll come back to. But ceremony is something that's more structured. Maybe takes a little bit more effort to put together,
Okay.
and so you would do that whenever you wanted. Now, there's other people that would say, I only do that on the full moon, or I only do that on the dark moon. So again, it's whenever we have to get away from the dogma of it. I think we have to really say, when I need it, I'm going to do it.
I love that. That's just,
Yeah,
hey, you are
yeah,
talking to the choir, sister. That's for sure.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that's great. Anytime we can have a ceremony,
Yeah,
Anytime we can wear sparkles, we're good.
that's good.
Um,
Yeah,
Lovely. So let's talk about this with regards to menopause. I mean, menopause,
yeah.
of course, a rite of passage for women. Describe, if you would, with your wisdom and from your professional stance of this, in your words, what a ritual is or a rite of passage. Let's say that again. Describe what a rite of passage is.
Yeah. So with regards to menopause for many women is a 10-year journey, right? It's not
That's
an
right.
event,
That's
right?
right.
And so when I said we enact that in a ceremony, that would be the rite of passage. So from the beginning, and for some people mark that as, 1 year has gone by since my last menstrual cycle, right? And then okay, now I have this liminal time of whatever that looks like for people, right? So the
Yeah.
liminal time, oh, I put on a bit of more weight, and oh, this is happening, I'm getting more achy, or whatever it is. Or in the positive, I have more energy, I feel more freedom now. So that's a part of what we would enact. And then at the end, right, is I call it the crone. Some people prefer wise woman. Some people want to have the sage. So what do we honor at the end? How do we bring that person back and incorporate them into our culture, their community? So you could do a ceremony at any point during that, but the rite of passage is from that first part of leaving who you were, physically, the liminal time, to the end, right? Of not the end, but the graduation, if you want to say. We
Yes.
call it incorporation. How do we send them back into the community? That's a rite of passage. Perhaps people need sustenance or support ceremonies in between.
Yes.
So they're having a real struggle. They're really not, things are changing in ways that they didn't expect. My mom didn't have any symptoms, but oh my gosh, do I ever? Maybe they need some support.
Mhm.
There's all different reasons why we need support during that. So that's a different kind of ceremony where we're not enacting the rite of passage necessarily. We're doing a snapshot in time, and
Okay.
therefore, creating more tools and things for them to be supported during that time. Yeah,
Lovely.
that
I'm
makes
getting
sense.
excited. I've got all these thoughts in my head. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah,
What I like about it is because, of course, we can, especially since I've started focusing on menopause a lot more and working with women in the world of menopause a lot more. Um, the messaging over the years has very much been that women are struggling with it. They don't really know what's going on with their bodies, and there hasn't been that conversation in a lot of conversation from previous years about what to expect. And I think definitely the conversation is changing now. But what I like about this is because where I'm going with that is menopause is seen as sort of a negative. It's that time of life.
yeah,
Oh, it's just when I'm gonna gain weight, I'm gonna do this. And they've got preconceived notions, and the control they feel is out of their hands, which it isn't. What I love about this is it's bringing people back to people forget to celebrate themselves, right? And
yes.
we as
Mhm.
women at this age, I am sorry, have so much to offer with what we've been through, the wisdom we've learned, what we've carried and done. There's so much. And I think so many can forget that. So, what you're doing, I think, is so important when it comes to
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I the more we talk about it, the more people want to do it,
That's right.
and that's the thing. I mean, I went through menopause early, and so I I was the odd person out, but I didn't suffer. Like, I didn't have all these symptoms that people talked about, and so I've
Mm,
done a lot of reading. I've got a background in herbal medicine, so I've done a lot of reading about it. And media wants it to be that, small percentage of people that had a lot of stuff, like negative issues around menopause. They want to make it that, because that also supports the cranky old crone, right?
exactly.
It's just such a negative. And so that's why I want to own that word crone.
I think
And
that's
that's why
amazing.
I want to promote that. But yeah, so I design ceremonies to help people at whatever point they're at and whatever they need at the
Lovely.
time. Yeah.
Lovely. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
How would a rite of passage or ceremonies be different for someone, say, who has gone through, let's call it, who they've been naturally menopausal, or somebody who's instantly menopausal due to medical issues, whether it be chemotherapy, whether it was surgery of some kind, which I'm going to be into. I've actually, one of the episodes is interviewing both of those kinds of women who've been through both. But how would the ceremony, would they differ even?
In some cases, yes, because what you need is different. So if you had a 10-year time period, right, where menopause was gradually unfolding for you, that's different than it's happening within a 3 to 6 month period.
True.
Right. So sometimes there's a lot of shock with that. There's a lot of friends that don't know what the heck to do for you. You've just, for whatever reason, chemo or surgery or whatever, you are instantly menopausal. Now what?
That's right.
Right. And so you've got more than one thing going on. You've got grief for who you used to be, your, your physical body parts meant a lot to you. It maybe for some people they were really happy, bye-bye, they were
Yeah.
always a challenge for them. But for other people, all of a sudden it's like who they were as female is now missing. And
Yes.
so honoring that as a ceremony is great, but that could also be the same for someone that is going through the whole 10-year cycle of menopause. Who I am as
You're right.
female. Not everybody honored their femaleness, so
Mm,
so maybe you want to do that, but how you do it, what I think would be about the same. But it has to be about the personality, to have a whole bunch of
mhm.
female goddesses hanging around for some of my friends, even though they're like, nah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Whereas other people, the more the merrier, everybody bring in their statues, So
Yeah.
so it's going to look different for every single person. And then, like I said, what you may be acknowledging and honoring during the ceremony may be different.
Okay.
Because I'll use an example of pearls of wisdom, which you'll see a slide of in a bit.
Okay.
You may offer someone that's going through it surgically or with chemo, you may be saying to them, here's my pearls of wisdom, right? Bring a clean cup to the hospital. There may be some things that you're going to say to them, make sure you wear those compression things on your arms or on your legs. So,
Yeah.
you're going to give them a different pearl of wisdom, perhaps, than someone that is now older and going, graduating or, being back incorporating into the culture, saying, we can't wait to hear all your surprises, or please don't tell me everything you need to know in one day. So
Yeah.
your pearls of wisdom are going to be different, definitely.
Okay.
So there's things like that I would change, just how I would say, and what I'd like you to offer in your pearls of wisdom is, right? And
Yeah.
then that would be defined by where they were at, that, the female was at that time. So yeah,
Okay.
that's an
Oh,
example. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's a great example. I think this is going to be very helpful. I mean, we know that things don't change overnight. People's perception and thoughts about the whole situation don't change overnight. But what I think is going to be so nice about this is it's going to be a pearl of wisdom, hopefully, for people watching to
Yes.
actually perhaps start seeing, comparing, how have I thought of this stage? What were my what were the preconceptions from what I thought it was, from what media or even
Yeah.
the world or other women told me or didn't tell me? Where am I now? How am I feeling about it? How do I feel about my body? I know a lot of women struggle with the sexual side of it. We've had a whole episode on that. And so that
Yeah.
could be seen very much as a loss. So I think when people know they're supported and really can find the positive in everything, I think
Yeah.
that's a real benefit. I think this is going to help women for generations if we can really open up how they're looking at this time of
Yeah.
life. And I'm with you.
Absolutely.
I think crone should be used so much because it just shouldn't be a negative word. It's part of us.
Yeah.
Now, there are some images. You sent me some images, and I'm going to hope that technology behaves and that we can get them
Yeah.
up and running. I'm wondering if
Yeah.
perhaps you could go through them and just sort of explain how to incorporate these elements into the different, topics that we've actually talked about already.
Right. Yeah.
So hold that thought. Let's
Well,
see.
while you're doing that, can I just
Okay.
add this? Is that
Yes.
I think that crone, because it's that withered old lady image that the media gives us, we need to look at where it came from. So crone comes from crown. So
Oh,
when I do
right.
ceremonies, right, it's in, this is my crown. This is the, my head full of wisdom that I own.
Yeah.
So when I do a lot of ceremonies, I sort of talk to people about it as the crowning ceremony.
Oh,
So
I
I don't know
love
if you
it.
can see this little thing back here, but there's a crown. Here, I'll clear it up. Check it out. Look at the
Oh,
crown.
I,
Yeah.
you, oh my gosh, I just love it. I love
So
it.
yeah, and so we have a lot of fun with croning ceremonies being crowning ceremonies when people don't like the word,
Yeah.
because then you can bring in, you'll love that, the tiaras, you can make your own little crowns, so there's
Um,
workshopy kind of things that you can add to a ceremony where
mm,
someone's making, whatever that is. And then
yeah.
sometimes I'll use an example of bay leaves because I don't have any slides of it, but you could write your pearl of wisdom for that person on a bay leaf, and you could make a bay leaf crown for them, or you could make crystal crowns for them as part of the ceremony. And then you're welcoming them back, right?
Yeah.
With this crown of everybody's wisdom, like, and,
Oh
and they are the
my.
delivery person for the collective wisdom. So there's lots of ideas that you can do, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune, and it can be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Now, seriously, had you told me that I could wear a crown for this episode, I would have done. I was given a little tiara by my son and his girlfriend for my
All right.
birthday. So,
Yeah.
oh my
Yes.
gosh, that's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
listen, let me see if I can
Okay.
call up these um, photos. And I think that might be them. Oh, here. All right. There we go. Share. All right. Can you see those photos?
I can see the photos. I've got your whole screen on there. So
Okay.
yeah,
Let's see.
there we go.
Open it up a little bit so that people don't see all of my things I have tabbed. Okay. All right. So which one? You tell me the order
No,
and,
I get that there is no real order.
okay. Perfect.
So I'll use this as an example. People want to know what to bring to a ceremony. So in the bowl, you'll see a bunch of rocks, and every rock is got a line that goes all the way around it. And we call those wishing stones. So people could bring a rock, or they could bring a wishing stone, and they could bring their wishes for that person to it. So this could happen, as an example, pre-surgery. What's my wishes for you? Here we go. And they could be washed and kept either at home or brought to the hospital, although things, the trade gets very busy when you're in the
Yeah.
hospital, so some things go missing. But a wishing stone is something that somebody could bring, or the honoree, right, could say, these are my wishes for you, right? Or you all make wishes together and they go home with the people, right? So at the
Oh,
bottom there, you can't really see it very well, I don't think, but there's a little string with a heart on it. Yes, that little thing right there.
here. Okay.
Yeah. So what that is actually a piece that was done at a workshop for a woman going in for breast surgery. And we did a workshop. Everybody brought beads. And we kind of made a rule that we had to upcycle. So everything there has been upcycled from somebody's necklaces or their little trinkets
Oh,
from Mexico. And we put them
okay.
all in a bowl. And all of us women made those, and we hung them in the window because it was going to be a long journey for my friend. She was going through chemo and then bone marrow transplant. It was, long episode. But that was our prayers that we held, and we held them in our windows for the whole journey.
Oh,
And so there's an example of, you don't have to spend a lot of money, right,
no.
to do this. And so there's an example of something that somebody could do.
Mm,
In the little bowl to the right, it's white. It's actually a clear candle holder. And it's just filled with salt, because salt absorbs the energy that's not serving us. People will call that negative. I say the energies that not serving us, that can be brought to the hospital. Those could be put in the four corners of the room. You could use a salt spray to clear the energy in that room that's not serving the patient.
mm,
So salt is a really powerful cleansing agent. We don't have to smudge. We don't have to use someone else's sacred medicine. We don't have to, burn frankincense or whatever, because you can't do that in the hospital.
that's
So what
right.
can you do? And then also at home, right? You're gonna have a lot of company that you might not have seen in a really long time, right?
Mhm.
And they all mean well, but sometimes that energy is not the best for you at the time. So salt in four corners at home, salt in four corners for a ceremony are all really good ideas. So yeah,
Okay.
and salt water,
Yeah.
and then there's just other elements that I've collected along the way that you can incorporate. I have a little collection of rose quartz hearts because when something
Mm,
happens, you don't always have time to go to the store and buy something, and it's not always open, right? So
that's
so
right.
I always use rose quartz. And then that little thing in the middle with all the dots on it, that is a rattle. And so it's a very small, it's palm-sized rattle.
Oh,
I don't have it out, but anyways, yeah, so it fits in the palm of your hand.
okay.
So rattles shake the energy, right? So if you're
Wow.
feeling like, oh, you're going through something, you've just heard, you know, a story, or it's a ceremony, everybody's gathering and they're all bringing in where a traffic jam they just came through or whatever, then you can shake it. And I made this because if you don't have a rattle, you can make one. So all this is soup mix like lentils and
Yeah.
rice
Okay.
in a pill bottle, or in the hospital they've got a pill bottle.
That's
So
right.
you're just shaking away, you're moving the energy that's stuck,
Okay.
right? And so that could be done as the opening of a ritual, that could be done at any time during a ceremony, that could be done at the hospital. So those are things that people can do. Like I said, the ritual versus a ceremony, it's a
Mhm.
part of the ceremony.
Okay.
So I use a lot of sound. I am not a
Nice.
singer, so I find other ways of creating that that in the ceremonies. Something to hold your little treasures, which is what that hand is. I use spoons, which you'll see in the other slides. I use spoons a lot. Well, I'll talk about in the other slides.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to this one.
Yeah. So back to the sound. I use a lot of sound. So that's a
Yes.
drum. The back is not a moon, it's a drum. And the little black object in the front there is a rattle. I don't know if you can see her little face.
Okay. Yes.
So again, a little bit louder. And again, I use it a lot to shake up the energy. People come in to a space or to a place, and like I said, they just go through traffic,
Hmm.
or they just got the news like within a week of what's happening to your friend, and like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what can I do? And like everybody's a bit rattled. So you just shake out that
Oh,
energy, right? You just loosen it up, and then everybody can just come together.
yeah.
Um, in the heart bowl, there's little wooden hearts. And I don't want to disclose too
Oh.
much about a ceremony that I did, but a friend of mine was saying goodbye to her heart. She was having a transplant. And so we did what I call the trilogy. So pre-surgery, during surgery, and then after, welcoming the new heart. So
Wow.
those hearts, um, they're little wooden ones, they're just from Michael's, but the little
Hmm.
wooden hearts, you write down what you want. And so for her was everything that her heart was for her, all the gifts that her heart was for her,
Yeah.
right? And with the number 3 in the trilogy was welcoming all of that and bringing that to the new heart. Does that follow? Yeah. So you
Absolutely.
could do that. Like if you are, the women are all getting together, people, it doesn't have to be only women at ceremony,
Hmm.
but the people are all getting together, and maybe they're going to say, you've always been the epitome of feminine to me, or and you're doing a menopause ceremony, this is the wisdom that you've given me that you're going to carry forth to the next place of wise woman, and you're going to bring that to
Yeah.
everybody. So those are the kind of things that you could do during the ceremony. And the drum is there because I drum the heartbeat. So if someone is
Oh,
doing a part where they're actually writing something down, right, then I will sit back and I will just drum the heartbeat. So it's a very big drum and it's very
yeah.
bassy. And so I don't have to talk. They just want
Yeah.
to write. And I could just, dum, 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 dum. And everybody feels comforted by the beat of the heart.
I can
And
imagine. Yes.
yeah, and so for ceremony, you can open with a drum, you can open calling the directions and playing, a different rhythm,
Yeah.
or, while the quiet time's there, you can drum. So yeah, and you don't need a
Absolutely.
drum. You
You clap.
can play your thighs. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
that too, I think, couldn't
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
And this is an interesting bunch of things. The photos here are all done by a photographer named Gary Stasiak in Vancouver,
Beautiful.
and just helping me illustrate to people what can go in, right, to a
Mm,
ceremony. The two spoons, one black, one white, um,
yes.
uh,
Okay.
they're done by a local artist. I really like them, but how did I use them? I use them as during COVID. Am I feeding myself negative? Am I feeding myself the light? So it could be
Mm,
something again that you can use for people going through surgery right now. Is that, am I going to listen to everybody that, a lot of people are going to tell you, oh, my aunt had this done, and oh my gosh, what
yeah.
happened? Or my aunt had this done, and man, she's rocking it right now. So
Oh,
it's,
wonderful.
what spoon you're going to feed yourself with.
Yeah, it's very
So
true.
that's why I have that there. The tuning fork, I'm going to play it. Can you hear this? It's a heart resonance. So it's, again, it's sometimes you come back from the writing exercise and you want to bring everybody back. And then what, right? So you can just
Mm,
play tuning fork, which is the heart resonance. So everybody comes together and there's a unifying quality to that.
mm,
So no words need to be used. I don't need to write a script for that. Everybody just gets it.
yeah.
Um, the little thing in the middle is Maiden Mother Crone, Maiden Mother Wise Woman. I tend to collect things in threes. And what that container is, as people might remember from Grandma's house, when they had the oil and vinegar and the salt on the table
Oh,
in those
yes.
little bottles? That's
Yeah.
what that is. That's the holder
Oh.
for it. So
Oh,
it's been upcycled to Maiden Mother Crone for ceremony.
lovely. Yeah.
And it could be, if people don't, want that, or you're doing a different kind of ceremony, or there's more, male, female, whatever, all incoming, that could be mind, body, spirit. That could be, earth, sea, sky. So it doesn't have to be that. So in my world, that gets reused a lot because it can mean so many things. The
Fantastic.
hearts, the paper hearts on the left of the slide are seeds. They have seeds in them. And so, first of all, they break down very quickly because they were made out of egg cartons.
Mhm.
Secondly, they are seeds that grow. So you could take that back after the ceremony. It could be the giveaway, and people could go and plant the poppies, or those are poppy seeds, but go plant the flowers in their yard. So
Okay.
this is, I call this the heart ceremony, but it could be for anything. And you make it, like I always say, please, thrift it or gift it whenever you can. Because
Nice.
yeah, we really don't need to be going out and buying a whole bunch more stuff.
That's right.
So yeah,
This
and
is just
yeah,
wonderful. All right, let's go to
yeah,
the third
yeah,
shot then here.
yeah.
Celebrate. Oh,
So yeah, this is an awesome, for me, it's awesome because again, you've got Maiden Mother Crone, you've got 3 candles again. And I work in threes mostly for menopausal kind of things because it just works for me. But you could
mhm.
do fours, you could do the 4 directions of the 4 seasons.
Mm,
We don't have to do threes, but I just happen to have 3, one pink for the maiden, one red for mother, one purple for the crone. And they're from India. I just have them. Spirals are something that a lot of people can relate to because, here we are again. I had menarche and now I got menopause. It's like this, all
yes,
these adjustments,
okay.
right? So spirals, owls are big symbols for, going into the wise woman. So,
Yeah, okay.
so the wise old owl, I have a few, and ask people to bring things. If you have a sacred symbol or something that you just think that reminds me of this, right? This
Mhm.
reminds me of menopause, or this reminds me of, coming through the surgery 100%, whatever that looks like. If there's a symbol, ask people to bring that to the altar. That could be the center table. If you want to call it the center table because altar triggers you, call it the center table.
Yeah, okay.
And that's a big thing for a lot of people. They get triggered by language, they get triggered by color. So
Okay.
sometimes I use a lot of purple and they're like, that's kind of churchy, Paula. And I use a lot of bells. So
Mhm.
I've moved to crystal bells more for ceremonies.
Okay.
Then I have a lot of metal bells. I ring people into their married life. I use the ones on the right, which are wands with little bells on the end.
Oh, look at those.
So that could be, people could stand on either side and then ring the people through into their wise woman, right? So
Okay.
that's what that is. The other one, the crystal one, is okay. So bells are rung all over the world. Why is it churchy? Well, I kept
Mm.
getting that feedback. So with crystal bells, no church has crystal bells that I've ever been in. No
Hmm.
temples ever had crystal bells. So that's what I've moved to. And the
Okay.
sound is amazing, right? And
Yeah.
quite often I lend people bells because at a ceremony, they come to a place sometimes where it's like, okay, I feel whole, or I feel
Oh,
strong, or I feel what, those are the kind of words that they use. So ring this bell if you miss that. If you
yeah.
get off track or you're feeling like you just need it, I have enough bells I can lend to people. So
Oh,
it's kind of a thing. So I always say I've got a basement, and when people say, "Where do you keep all this stuff?" and I got a basement, so
oh,
I can lend crystal bells to people
nice.
for coming back to themselves, coming back to that strong, supported, very well supported friend, person, whatever. Then sometimes it's for the partner, right? Sometimes the
Mm.
partner's having a harder time,
Yeah.
and so they can do their own little ritual at home. Okay,
Yep.
every night before we go to bed, let's come back to this place, and they ring the bell. That red cord there is not attached to those things, to the
Okay.
little things. So I'm going to show you what it is. It's just this.
Okay.
And so I made this for this. But what I did, and I talk about things I've done wrong, or not, could be better. I was passing this around to a group of women, and I said, okay, we're just going to crochet a really big chain.
Oh.
Gone. Like anybody that was like out of, not being the girl that crocheted or knit, or whatever when they were younger, I just lost them. And I was
Oh.
like, oh, that's so weird. They're like, Paula, I couldn't even think about it. And I said, so now I use, let's finger knot.
Oh,
So we're
smart.
going to finger knot this chain. So describe what we do at the opening. Because a lot of us have people from all different silos in our life. It's not,
Hmm.
just, all the girls we meet on Sundays or whatever.
Hmm.
So when you have a large group and you want to go around and you want to do in introductions, you can. So what this is you get red or whatever color you want, and you pass this around, and they make a few knots. And as they're doing that, they're talking about whatever you just want them to direct them to. So, how did you meet Agnes? Right, and they can say,
Hmm.
"Oh, when we first met then." So then this ties. You can imagine. So an average ball of wool goes around the whole circle, and now
Yeah.
you have a chain, and you just have it sit on your
Oh.
lap for the whole ceremony. So people have participated, they feel union, and they're just sitting there holding it for the whole time. And a lot of people, they've not haven't done this. So when you tell them to
Mm.
stand up and hold hands, you lost them, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
have.
right.
Right? Okay,
Mm.
everybody stand up and hold hands, like hell no, right? They don't want to do
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
so how can we do that? And I like to level the playing field. I always say, there's times when you get all those chapters, all those people in your life, and oh, I've always heard about them, and that's your hippie friend, and that's your downtown friend, and that's that. Let's just take all that out of there.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is do silly things like hand nodding. I've
Hmm.
done belly dancing with
Oh,
groups,
oh,
and
love
just
it.
do the figure eight.
Yeah,
Everybody's on the same page at that.
that's
Like so.
right. Oh,
So
there's
yeah,
something power to that.
yeah. And then after, what those pieces of paper
Okay.
are I just make them. You can just chop up pieces of paper, but I have stamps and decals, scissors, and so I make those. And then what they are, upcycle an old necklace. Here's the
Hmm.
pearl. And at the
Oh.
end, they write the pearl of wisdom, and then they poke it through the chain.
Oh.
So then this becomes like a prayer
Oh.
flag,
Oh my gosh.
right? So again, a pearl of wisdom or whatever it is. I've done things where we've done little cards where they can say what they'd be willing to do. Because
Yeah.
everybody says, oh, Mary, how can I help you?
Yeah,
Or let me know if you need
that's
anything,
right.
right? And okay, but I'm really good at making salads. If you want the house dusted, right, then they can write that on there as
Yeah.
their gift to Mary. So that, and then Mary takes this home, and she sees that she has this love and support from
Mm,
her friends, and whoever her family or friends are that come over, they go, oh yeah, well, she said she'd make you a salad, or they'll do the run, or they'll design the cooler for the front porch, whatever
mm.
people do for each other. Then they can do it in different ways, nice ways.
Oh my
So
gosh, this
that's
is
this
lovely.
is a fun little thing. People like it. People like it a
Mm,
lot.
that's a great idea.
Other celebrants steal the idea, which is great. I mean, that more ceremonies. I think if we, one ceremony ups us all. And
That's right.
I
Totally
just
agree.
look at it. Yeah,
It's like anything, right? It's people can in any industry, anything they can see people as competition. But when you start looking, well, you're serving people, and the more people that can experience it, the better
yeah.
off the
We
world is really. So
Yeah, we hold each other up. We all give each
yeah,
other. If one
absolutely.
person rises, we all rise. That's how I look at it.
Yeah,
And like I'm going and I'm teaching other celebrants, so it's like it's not my stuff. It is my stuff, but it's like it's my giveaway, and we all help
yeah.
each other. Then more ceremonies will happen. That's the way I look at
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So with these ceremonies, I get the impression there's no rules. Like, could